I would like to call to order the Winthrop School Committee meeting on April 11th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The meeting will be held in room 142, Winthrop High School, 400 Main Street, and we are being recorded and will be televised live. May I have the roll call, please?
Ms. Barry?
Here.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yep.
Ms. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Petrie? Ms. Swope?
Here.
Ms. Powell?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Berry, can you lead us?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note for the record that Ms. Petrie is in attendance. Thank you. And, do we have any public comment tonight? Seeing none, we have a visitor tonight, Mr. Crombie, our principal of the high school, with an Neasnc update. Take it away.
All right, well, thank you very much, everyone, for having me tonight to give you a summary of this report. We're very excited at Winthrop High School that this process is coming to an end, even though once it ends, it actually starts again. But we're excited about our report and excited to share some of the, I think the report highlights a lot of the great things that are happening at Winthrop High School. So the report's obviously very lengthy. I'm going to do the best I can to give you the highlights, and then I'll obviously be here to answer any questions once I'm done, whether it's about the summary that I give or about anything that you've seen in the report. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about the accreditation process. I'll address the priority areas. I'll review some of the recommendations and commendations that came out of the report. And again, I'll be here to answer any questions at the end. So I know that there's been a little bit of a change in the committee since this process has started, so I want to make sure that everyone has just a quick understanding of the whole process. So the accreditation process actually starts with what we call the self-reflection, which took place in 2018, the spring of 2018, where the staff of Winthrop High School gets together and kind of does a little bit of an inventory, a look into what we're doing at the school, and comes up with and produces evidence that pertains to the standards that are set out by the accrediting body. Once we do that, the steering committee develops what we call a self-reflection report. The steering committee is made up of myself and other faculty members at Winthrop High School. We send the self-reflection report out to the visiting team, who reads the report and uses that as a basis for what they call a collaborative conference visit, which took place in 2019, the spring of 2019. The Neasnc collaborative conference visit was a two-day visit in person, where about 7 people came to Winthrop High School, walked through our halls, reviewed our own self-reflection report, and was seeing where we are in terms of meeting the standards for their set forth in their foundational elements. During the collaborative conference visiting team generates a report that highlights priority areas that we need to focus on over the next 2 years in anticipation of our decennial visit. So from 2018 to 2021, we had listed several priority areas based off of the self-reflection and the collaborative conference report that we needed to work on, again, in anticipation of that decennial visit. The decennial visit took place in October 2021, and that was done, it was a virtual visit. Obviously, because of COVID, the Neasnc visiting teams have been doing virtual visits, and even though we were back in school, we weren't even back in school at that we were back in school at that moment. They weren't visiting in person, so we did a virtual visit, which was a little bit more difficult for us to coordinate, but definitely easier than hosting people for a couple of days straight. So the visit went really well, and after the visit, the decennial visiting team generates the decennial report, which is the report we have now. They send it to us. We have the opportunity to read it and ask questions and make any modifications or get clarification on points, and then they generate a final report, which is what you have now. That report has to be shared out with faculty, staff, parents, and school committee and superintendent within 60 days when the report's released. So here we are. At the end of the report that's generated by the team gets put in front of the Neasnc commission, which determines our accreditation status. Unfortunately, at this particular moment, we don't know what our accreditation status is yet because they have not sent us the official letter indicating our status, which we anticipate to be with us, which to be sent to us by the end of this week or the week after April vacation. It was supposed to be the end of March, but I think they're playing catch up on their own work over there. And I can get more into that as I get through this. So just to remind everyone what our priority areas were or are, and I know that some members on the school committee worked a lot with me on making sure that we were meeting these areas. One was the vision of the graduate, developing a vision of the graduate, and per the report, the Neasnc report, we've met that standard. The next one was our intervention strategies, which we were noted as meeting the standard. Hiring of a library media specialist, which we did, so we met the standard there. And then the curriculum work, which indicated in the report says we did not meet the standard, and that's not because we're not doing the work, it's just that the work was not completed by the time the visit happened. And that curriculum work is still ongoing, and I anticipated that I would say by the middle of next year we'll be completely done with that. It's important to note that our process, this accreditation process, was interrupted by the pandemic, but we didn't get, nothing got delayed for us, or we didn't get anything postponed, or we didn't get extra time for anything. So I think had we been in a place where we didn't have to plan for remote learning and things like that, that curriculum work would have been completed. And with that being said, even through the pandemic, we still set aside a lot of time for our staff to work on that curriculum work. So some of the recommendations, the recommendations that are included in the report, there's many. I don't want to have to read them all to you because I know that everyone has the report. But a lot of the recommendations are, I look at them more like just kind of like reminders. I don't think they indicate things that aren't happening in Winthrop High School. I think they're just, you got to keep doing these things. And so they're in the report. But I do want to read some of the commendations, because again, I think we had about, at least double the amount of commendations than we did recommendations, which I think is a great thing. So just to highlight some of the commendations that we got through the report, they highlighted the strong relationships between teachers and students and the sense of school pride at Winthrop High School, the fostering a sense of belonging and building a welcoming school community for all staff and learners where students are happy and enjoy learning, the use of core value acronym of PRIDE by the entire district and customized by each school, the use of the newly redefined vision of the graduate during the pandemic to guide staff, the evolution of the learning expectations to the new vision of the graduate, the development and implementation of a formalized curriculum mapping process, the resources and time dedicated to understanding by design training and the subsequent collaborative curriculum design, the process made towards a complete and uniform written curriculum, the linking of curriculum development with teachers' professional practice goals, which formalizes accountability and input and motivates meaningful results, the collaborative and innovative culture of the leadership and faculty, which fosters openness, cooperation, and a considerable work ethic dedicated to the curriculum writing process, the implementation of a formal referral process for students needing interventions, the addition of a second adjustment counselor to better meet the social emotional needs of the students, the personalized support for administrators and guidance staff for students, the hiring of a tech integration specialist to support student learning, the plan to enhance the student learning experience through educational technology and partnerships with classroom teachers, the intention to redesign the Learning Commons to be a functional, engaging space responsive to students' needs, the use of project-based learning where students can work collaboratively, demonstrate their learning in a variety of innovative ways, the student-led Viking Longships course, which provides a valuable experience for students to take the initiative and gather meaningful, relevant skills, the incorporation of digital literacy, where students are encouraged to use technology in various ways to enhance their learning throughout the school, The willingness of staff to embrace the priority areas, to accept change, and to move forward with ongoing improvement through collaboration, ownership, and accountability. The collaborative relationship developed among the principal, superintendent, and the school committee focused on supporting teaching and learning, and the creative means to provide sufficient programs, services, professional development, supplies and materials, and sufficient staff on a tight budget. So again, highlighting the accommodations through the report. And if you read the report, I think these are all can be found in different sections, and I think there's a lot of other positive things that the report brought out. Next steps in the accreditation process. And so we had talked a little about our accreditation status. The school's initial or continued accreditation is based on the satisfactory progress implementing the school's improvement plan based on the priority areas validated by the visiting team and recommendations identified by the commission as it monitors the school progress and changes which occur at the school throughout the decennial cycle. So again, the commission's taking this report and to determine what our accreditation status is and what our capacity is to uphold the standards that they've laid out for us. In an ideal world, we have the accreditation status letter for this meeting, so I can say Winthrop High School has continued accreditation officially. We just don't have that at this particular moment. And then moving forward, when we do have that letter in our hands, obviously, that'll be something that will be communicated to Ms. Howard and she'll break out to you folks. But we, based on the report and our conversations with the Neasnc visiting team, we anticipate that our status is going to be continued accreditation.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note too that the process, this particular process, involves a lot of discussion with our staff and with the staff of the high school. And taking this report and meeting with the staff who has put an inordinate amount of time into this process, if you think about sort of what else we had to do while this was going on. Low-key, redesign public education during a pandemic was a piece of that. And I say that tongue-in-cheek now because, you know, it's that part, we've moved on from that part and we're moving forward. But the amount of time and dedication and attentiveness and willingness and collaboration and sort of just agreeing that this is not all about telling us what we're not good at. It's telling us how much stronger we can be and giving us tools and support and strategies and suggestions. I love seeing all of the highlights and all of the commendations for the things that we do well, because we do this every day, and oftentimes we forget that we added adjustment counselors. We forget about the fact that we decided several years ago that PRIDE, P-R-I-D-E, was going to be our thing, moving forward a little bit different in each building. I think highlighting the fact that, you know, a lot of the work that we're doing is tied to teacher evaluation and teacher goals, and how important that is in terms of accountability from the top down. Accountability for me, accountability for the administration, accountability for the teachers, and teachers' accountability for our student progress. Although you have to have recommendations, it's very hard to have somebody come out and do an evaluation of you and not come out with any recommendation at all. And we welcome those recommendations. We want to keep striving to do better. Sometimes our mirror sees us, and it's nice to have another mirror come in and say, oh, here's an area that you might want to continue. And so it is a lot of reading. We had hoped, and we knew we weren't going to have their recommendation or their status for us by today, but we did share this with our staff because there's a specific timeline and it had to go to parents as well. So we wanted to make sure that the school committee also had it in the same timely manner that parents and staff did. And then we'll regroup when we get our accreditation, which I'm convinced, I always leave that little percentage rate of concern, but I'm convinced based on reading these for several years that we are in a good place. So I look forward, it's funny, everybody has timelines from the state level, and sometimes their timelines they get on pause for a minute, and that's okay. We understand they're overwhelmed with many of these visits that got backed up that they've done. So we're looking forward to having that by hopefully next week, and we'll bring that right back to the committee as soon as we have that.
As far as the process moving forward though, just so everyone's aware, you do start the next cycle for the next 10 years. And so I'll be submitting 3- and 6-year progress 3 and 6 year progress updates to the commission on where we are as a school. And there's like a template for that. It's nothing too complicated, but there is a substantial change policy, which basically means if you're making major changes as it relates to certain things, the priority areas, budget, things like that, we have to let them know right away that we've made those changes. And that will and could affect our ongoing accreditation status. So that's in the last page of the report, that substantial change policy. But I don't anticipate over the next couple of years that we'll have to do that, but those progress reports do happen and do get sent to the commission, and they're checking in on us, and then we start rolling into another decennial visit. And then before I take any questions, I do want to make sure, I think Ms. Howard mentioned it, but it was a tremendous amount of work for us to go through this process. Our students were involved in the process, and they did an excellent job. The ones that were involved in the decennial visit, who actually had to meet with visiting team members. We have students who were here for the self-reflection and the collaborative conference that have now graduated, but they were here and they represented our school very well. And I think, the students, I think in some of the student meetings that they had, the visiting team was just so impressed with our kids. Our staff has been all in on this, and this has been like the singular focus over the last couple of years. And I think they would tell you that they're happy they put that time and effort into it, because they think it's helped us gain some momentum as a staff at the high school, and helped us get in the right direction, get pointed in the right direction, and certainly increase collaboration. Obviously, the superintendent has been guiding me as I try to guide the staff through the process, so I'd like to thank her for that. And Laurie Galvin has been a tremendous help and leader on the curriculum side, and certainly someone who's helped guide me again in leading the staff through this. Our steering committee members have put the most time into this. That's Kathleen D'Amico, Mark Dixon, and Connie Moore. They did most of the report writing, and a lot of just basically like the heavy lifting, the stuff on the back end that kind of doesn't get seen. So I do want to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for that. And then obviously the school committee. So as we've gone through this process, the committee members have been here and they've had to listen to this and updates, and they've also had to meet with the Neasnc committee. And I can tell you that one of the things that kept coming up was how significant they felt that the strong relationships and the collaboration that we all have, everyone in this room, and the parents and the kids, is one of the major reasons why we're so successful and why our students are successful. So that's such a great thing. So I want to thank everyone for that. So I can answer any questions.
Yes,
I will really keep this short for change. But first of all, congratulations. This report was really, I think, very well written, and it takes an army to do it. And then to make sure that what the team sees when they come is what you've written in the report. So first of all, congratulations on that. And you're going to get me accredited. I just had a couple of questions. Maybe you can answer this later for me, but in it says 3.1, it's priority areas for growth, and it says some priority areas weren't included. I don't know what those areas are.
So I think what that's referring to is when they had come to the collaborative conference visit,
Yeah.
they had, and when they had left, they identified these priority growth areas for us, our priority areas.
Right.
And not every single one of those areas was reflected in our improvement plan, school improvement plan that year.
I see.
So that's what so essentially what needs to happen is your school improvement plan every year drives your school. These are the
Right.
goals that you put forward, and all the stakeholders have had their input into the school improvement plan. But the improvement plan, the goals in the improvement plan have to align with the priorities set forth by the Neasnc visiting committee. And I think 3 out of 4 of them are reflected in the school improvement plan. But the timing of that was that they had visited, they put that in, but our school improvement plan was almost done for that school year. But the next one that came up includes all of them. But I think that was just something that they wanted to recognize there.
Okay.
And when you see, at the end of the school year, when you see our new school improvement plan for next year, all of the goals in there will align directly with the priority areas that are spelled out in this report.
Secondly, they suggested that, I know vertical integration is really important, and we do, and they mentioned that the high school did it pretty well, but it's not as important in high school, frankly, as it is in the lower grades, and they don't think we have that, so I mean, that's just something for the superintendent to think about, because it's just from grade to grade, and it's particularly continuity and something like that. And the final thing is, when they say that we need to report substantive changes, substantive policy changes, or substantive changes, if we were in a situation where we had to cut whatever that they think is important, does that have to be reported each year?
Yes.
In other words, 2 teachers, 1 teacher, an ESP?
So on the substantive change policy outlined in the report, I think it spells out several specific instances where you have to report it, and you have to report it within 60 days.
See, I was thinking how to, I don't want to say get around it, but I don't mean it that way. But when it says the ability to meet the standards, if we had to take the cuts and we could still found a way around it to meet the standard, then I'm thinking, maybe that every single thing doesn't have to be reported, but I don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think more what they're looking for is, I think the changes are tied directly to budget and how they affect the resources that we have. And if those resources are cut and that causes us to not be able to meet our standards, then we'll have to let them know. But I would use the bulleted list as a guide for me to know when I would have to file a change. But they do, we did put it, we do have a library a tech integration specialist.
Yeah.
And if we don't have one next year, the year after, I have to let them know.
Yeah.
And that'll be, I don't think that, I think that would affect our ability to meet the standards.
Got it. Thank you.
And that's just one example.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Any other questions?
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, and I don't think we've met before. I'm Suzanne Leonard.
Nice to meet you.
So I just wanted to say that those commendations gave such a such a robust, I think, picture of the school, and so I wanted to compliment you on that. I was wondering if you'd be willing to give also sort of a high-level overview of some of the recommendations or some of the things that you're really kind of working on, or some of the improvement ideas. I really appreciated that bird's eye view of kind of what's going well, but I was wondering if you could also give me a sort of a bird's eye view of some of the things that are part of the growth plan.
Sure. So, the formal recommendations and the priority areas are 2 different things. So the formal recommendations were were a little bit more general. The priority areas are obviously areas that we're still going to focus on. We're going to make sure that we're continuing that curriculum work until that's completed. That's the most important one right now for us. That's a priority. There's still some work to be done on our intervention strategies that we're providing for students. During the COVID time, we had to shift our priorities with how we did our intervention strategies when we were remote. So we have to kind of get back to a more robust plan in terms of how we're providing interventions for struggling students. And then obviously we're going to continue to have our library media specialist. So that's not necessarily a priority area, I guess, anymore now that we have someone in it, which is working out wonderfully for our school. And then the recommendations that they gave, like I said, they're a little more broad, but I'll just go over a few. To ensure all students are active participants in their learning and have opportunities for choice, agency, and the pursuit of personal interests and creative expression. I think when they went into some classrooms, they saw a lot of discovery learning going on, where students were asked to do the critical thinking and teachers weren't dictating to them or doing the work for them. And then I think in some other classes, they saw a little bit more of the old-fashioned kind of like drilling students and like, and so I think they want to see more of that, creating more creative learning opportunities for the kids. Ensuring all learners have challenging and rigorous learning opportunities. Ensure educators individually and collaboratively continuously examine their practice to ensure consistency with the school's core values. So they want that collaboration to continue, that professional collegiality that we've had come over the past couple of years. We've come a long way with that. They want to make sure we continue to do that, and that our professional development ties in with the goals that we've laid out, and there's a plan for that. I think they want to see that. Engage educators in formal, just that one. Ensure that schools' dedication to diversity, equity, and inclusion are clearly articulated to all stakeholders, including the community at large, and integrated in a meaningful way into all departments, programs, and instructional practices. And include all the priority areas for growth in the school improvement plan, which is what Suzanne had talked about. So, I don't know if you have any questions about that.
No, thank you. I think that's
Okay.
really helpful.
Anything else? From a question on the follow-up, when you have to do the reporting, does that factor into, does that put the accreditation at risk mid-process, or does that just get integrated into their planning for the tenure?
I believe it can affect your status, and so I believe if there is some major change and they believe it could, through the reporting, that it could affect your ability to meet their standards, they could put you on a warning status.
Okay.
And then you would be there until basically the next collaborative conference visit. So when we had our original collaborative conference visit, our status was accredited because of our previous decennial visit and the follow-up work that we had done from that visit. And we didn't have any substantial changes. The new buildings, the new school building, was the focus of the last decennial visit. And so we got, we weren't gonna get accreditation if we didn't have a new facility.
Right.
And so, I think that was the impetus for a lot of the work that we did around that. So I think if we make any changes that have to be reported, I think it could jeopardize the status. I don't know, but I think that it could,
Okay.
depending on how substantial it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just good to understand as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
continue to deliberate budgets.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you to all of the people who put in so much effort on this. I know this has been a very long process, and it's appreciated, and I think that we already see the efforts in effect in the hallways with the students and with the families.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crombie.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 28th, 2022?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Swope,
Second.
second by Mr. Lettieri. Do we have any comment on the motion, on the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Barry?
Abstain.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve warrant SVW 22-17 in the amount of $328,200.88?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope. I'm sorry, Ms.
It's okay.
Motion by
At least you didn't say Suzanne.
Ms. Leonard. Second by Mr. Martucci. May I, any discussion on the motion? May I have a roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve payroll warrant SPW 22-21 in the amount of $851,193.19?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Ms. Berry, second by Ms. Petrie. May I have any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, can I have a roll, please?
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Abstain.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Abstain.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. Do we have any budget transfers?
We do not.
Okay, we have a buildings and grounds request for the class of 22 bake sale in the ATC driveway. Can Can we take these all together?
Sure.
Sure.
Winthrop Parks Run Rec, Flag Football Miller Field, Winthrop School Performing Arts Dance Recital, and the Neil Shapiro Center for Performing Arts. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lettieri, second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll?
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. We have a subcommittee report on curriculum tonight.
We met on March 30th, and Lori joined us, and we covered a few topics. The first one was what's new in the curriculum, and Lori shared some of the highlights with us on that regard. I guess the one that I really liked was illustrative math. I mean, it's a pretty exciting way to teach math when you have all these kids working in groups and figuring out how to get to the answer. I learned multiplication just by running the tables. 8 by 8, 8 times 8. You had to say them 10,000 times. But they actually understand it, I think, a little bit better than I did, so I was pleased about that. We discussed some of the salient features around the curriculum, some of which you saw in the report, but one of the things that Lori mentioned is we can introduce new programs, but then how do we teach the teachers to teach them? I mean, it's the introduction sometimes, or the actual program itself we can agree on, but now you have to learn to use it in a productive way, and so it's efficient and effective. So we spent a lot of time with teachers on that. We also talked about the impact of the pandemic, and it's the younger kids that, as I think as Howard said in our last meeting, that really were hit hard. When I think about it, I think second grade was only in school about 3 months. And so they had a lot to learn, and they're still catching up on that. The teachers are. Things that they would have learned in kindergarten, they're now learning in second grade. So that means that we stop for intervention a lot in those grades. But it's coming. But it does mean the emphasis on social emotional learning which is probably greater than it has been in the past because of the pandemic. We also have increased ELL students. About 300 students, I think, are included if you include FEL, which is you're in an ELL class, but then there's follow-up to that in the FEL program. So that means that more time needs to be spent on language and reading. And I also mentioned this in the meeting because our scores are okay in reading, but they're not as good in math. But as Lori pointed out, unless you have the language to learn math, you're kind of dead in the water. So that's why the continued emphasis on reading, and of course with these kids, it's also learning the language. We also discuss the importance of individualized plans for teachers that Lori works on too, in terms of just making sure that the teacher is working on something they really need to work on so that they're better prepared in the classroom. And she's gotten, I think, a lot of buy-in to that. It may not have started like that, but I think there's buy-in now on that. I did hand out a list of general responsibilities of a curriculum committee because it's a little bit different than other committees. And one of the things that Ms. Howard and I talked about is that it was a good thing to have as many people come to talk about curriculum here to the whole committee versus just having it done in a smaller group in curriculum committee. But we are to look at when we officially adopt new programs, we should consider those. We're asked to look at evaluation reports when that's prudent, and review benchmark data, and request an evaluation of curriculum in view of changes in the student population. The ELL would be an example of that. Then we are asked to periodically review studies and reports on student progress, but that's done mostly through this committee as a whole. And the other one, which I haven't done a lot of, is that we're to look at extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities in light of student learning. So it's not just about winning games, it's about what's being taught when you're in an athletic program. That's really important. Maybe that is something that we could maybe take some time on sometime in the future. That's it, thank you.
Very good, thank you. And we have a subcommittee on policy.
Yes, so the policy subcommittee met on Thursday, March 17th to discuss implementing Zoom meeting accessibility for future school committee meetings. We reviewed feedback that we had received from other town council and school committee members and discussed the technology feasibility. We knew that we would need to bring in an extra body to help man the Zoom sessions if we were to move forward with them, and we agreed that we could offer community service hours to 2 students to help run the Zoom meeting. We felt that 2 high school students would be better than 1 for a couple of different reasons. We agreed that we would not enable public comment via Zoom, at least initially. Instead, we'd request that we add a line to our school committee meetings for correspondence. During this time, we'd read into record any emails that were sent to us by the community, and we'd continue to accept public comment via email or in person. Comments and correspondence could be sent in via written or audio message to help those who may have a sight impairment. We felt that we could test this arrangement out, maybe tie it to the school year, and see if we could solicit any community input at the end of this to see how the arrangement is received. We took a vote and we passed it unanimously, and now we can bring it to the full committee for vote. So the idea would be that we would enable Zoom meetings for listening to make it more convenient for those at home. However, we would not have public comment enabled during that time. Rather, we would stick to in-person meetings, emails, and add a line of correspondence to the future agendas so that folks could have their emails read into record.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion on that
Yes.
policy change?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to accept that policy change.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Berry, second by Mr. Martucci. Any discussion on this motion?
Can I add something? I just want to say that obviously timing will have to depend on when we can establish a couple of students to come in for
Right.
community service
Right.
hours. I know some of the kids in the National Honor Society are looking for individualized service projects. I think it's a good opportunity for kids who might be interested in politics or, anything like this, school committee, becoming a school committee member in the near future. I don't know, but it's a good opportunity for kids too. So timing would obviously depend on when we can secure that.
Do we have the equipment to do this?
I think it's just like a computer, and I know that we have the ability to have Zoom
We can bring a Chromebook.
conferences. Yeah.
Okay. And in this room as well, because I know the Harvey room is more set up
Yep.
for it, but we
We
have it
just have
here.
to bring a Chromebook in.
And can you just talk a little bit about the decision to not include public comment during Zoom and?
Yeah, I think it's in an effort to try out having the Zoom, see how it works. I think there's concern that public comment gets out of hand pretty frequently in other meetings. I think that often topics are brought up that are not on the agenda. And I think it's important that we hear from the public and that they can actually attend and watch the meetings. But I think on a trial basis, as we roll this out, we were more comfortable not having public comment via Zoom initially.
And I think with students running the Zoom initially,
Yeah.
having to manage when to mute somebody, unmute somebody, I know they're savvy at doing that, but it's not about the process of pressing the button, it's about taking direction from somebody else to have them either end a public comment or time it, and I think once we get used to having students become part of that process, there'll be a little training that we
Yeah.
need to go on for that as well.
And I think that's why we wanted to try it on a trial basis, coordinate it with the end of the school year, knowing that kids also need community service hours during the
Right.
summer.
They definitely do. I do like that you are encouraging another line for communication. I know that I think it's important that people feel that they do have an opportunity to talk, to make their opinions heard and known. So I like adding that correspondence line.
We
Yes,
had some discussion about this. This was not just, well,
No.
we should just not include.
No, we
public
talked a lot
comment.
about
So
it.
we kind of went back and forth on it, but it's worth trying to see how it goes. And then we can ask the public, again, we can ask them what they think, but It seems to be reasonable, especially if you could send in just a public comment on audio as well as show up in person as well as write it. So I'm not sure that we'll have a concern about that, but we could.
Any other discussion? Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. Do we have a superintendent's report tonight?
We do. Tonight, I put in your packet a copy of the CASA P&A survey it's the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that we do every 2 years here in the school. We work with CASA, who has a grant to help support the development of the survey, but also the collection of the data and then the report writing that goes along with that. We were scheduled to have this go off on April 15th. However, both Principal Crombie and Principal Curley would like to postpone that a little bit. We've had a few hiccups this week. We've had some testing going on. They would like some more time to be able to reach out to the parents. At this time, lots of surveys are being asked of parents, lots of questions are being asked of families. We want to make sure that parents have the opportunity to read what the survey is about in a timely manner, be able to ask questions if they need to prior to consenting for their child to participate in the survey. The survey itself gives information to us about our students' needs and how our students are feeling socially, emotionally, and there are many questions, and the survey will be available if parents want to come in. We are not sending the survey out ahead of time because there's no studying for this. This is really a question and answer period for children, but there are parents who may want to see something before they consent or say that they don't want their child to participate in it. So although it's in your packet, we're going to hold it for further discussion, just so that the two principals, the folks from CASA, and myself can be assured that the parents actually are aware that this is coming out, and the 15th was too short of a time frame for me to be able to get that out. I also put in your packet Walk to School Day on May 4th. We encourage that every year. National Walk and Bike to School Day. We'll be encouraging that again this year. If parents want to meet, they'll be getting a flyer that will go out to them. Some parents want to meet and gather up at one spot where they can park and walk a shorter distance. For instance, not walking all the way from Holy Rosary down at Point Shirley to the Gorman-Fort Banks. They could meet at a park somewhere as a group. So more information will be going out to parents on that. A couple of neat things going on at the fort. Second grade student Jacob Oliver is one of the winners of the MWRA poster contest that we had. Many other students received honorable mention for the work that they had done, and Ms. Pearson was quite proud of them all. Students and staff across the district are happy to celebrate Autism Awareness and Neurodiversity Week in a variety of ways. So be looking for that in your child's school. You should see some neat posters up on the wall, and just lots of cool inclusionary activities going on in the school. Let's see. So if you happen to be at the fort, one of the ultimate displays of collaboration and awareness among our students is shown on the walls. If you see Jason Osborne, who happens to be one of our teacher, and the work products he puts up, just really shows a lot of pride in the work that our students have done. So a shout out to him for keeping our students moving and grooving over there and showing their talents. A couple of other highlights. Jillian Dempsey, I know we talked about this before, captain of the Boston Pride. They won the Premier Hockey Federation Championship after claiming the 4-2 comeback win over Connecticut. And I was at school when Jillian returned, and I got to hide in her classroom with her entire group of kids that she teaches every day, and give a kid a party blower. Honestly, it's the best day ever. So they were blowing the party blower favors, and we had black and gold balloons, and Jillian came, like she always does, in her dress with her shoes into the classroom, and the kids just went berserk, and they were so happy. She's just, she screams everything there is about pride, whether it's Viking pride, Winthrop Public Schools pride, or pride hockey. Just an amazing person to look up to for all of our students, no matter who they are. So it was a lot of fun. Staying on the hockey topic, so we're really good at that around here. Summer Talent was named Lynn Item Player of the Year in the Boston Herald All-Scholastic and a Boston Globe All-Scholastic. Emma Holmes, Julia Holmes, and Talia Martucci were named Lynn All-Stars. That's a great place to be as a female athlete, so kudos to them. Middle school quiz bowl, kids kicked it out of the park. They came in first place against Malden Catholic. Congratulations to Joe Disney, Roy Konopaska, Myra Sheehu, Eric Briggs, and Ellie Farnsworth. Special thanks to Coach Farnsworth and Miss Foley. The team wanted to pay tribute to Miss Gallagher, who coached the Quiz Bowl team for many years with Fonzie. So they had T-shirts made with Amy's initials, which is always a tearjerker, but a great tribute to her. You all know, I believe, that our Drama Society are regional champs for the production. I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but I'm not sure if we fully covered it. Our fourth grade teacher, Connie Grayson, is recipient of this year's Chamber of Commerce Excellence in Education Award. Connie's worked in the Winthrop Public Schools for 36 years at the Dalrymple and the Cummings School. Prior to coming to Winthrop, Connie also taught at St. John's in Winthrop and worked for FKO, which is for Kids Only, and Winthrop's 21st Century program. The award ceremony is going to be held on May 21st from 6 to 8. Annual Walk to School Day, I already talked about. Something that, I'd love to be able to say, and we've said it more than once here in the Winthrop Public Schools, but I'm very happy to scream out that Winthrop High School senior Daniel Tracy was accepted to Harvard University. And we are proud of every single college that our students get into. Getting that special honor and being accepted to Harvard is sort of like a family thing at the Tracy house. So a shout out to the Tracy family and a shout out to the Winthrop Public Schools for sure for giving our students a chance to achieve something like that, as well as all the other colleges. We're beginning to see all the acceptances that our kids are getting into. I think it's critically important to know where our kids have been accepted to. Equally as important to know where they're going. But some of our students are very savvy, and they get into some incredibly well-known schools that are very high-priced, and they get into some incredibly well-known schools that are not so high-priced. And kids are getting much smarter than adults now, and they are picking those schools in which they know that they'll be able to attend and survive after they graduate. So I always like to look at the list of where did our kids get in? Because every kid that applies to 10 schools typically gets into several of those. So we'll be going through that list of the schools that accepted our students, not just necessarily where they've chosen to go. Let me see, I don't want to leave anything out. Oh, Winthrop High School. Go on the website and check out the tab for the Class of 22 resource page. It's really a neat page. It's on our website under the high schools tab, and it gives you all of the upcoming events for the senior class. We must get, 15 calls a week. When's graduation? When's class night? When's a Fasella Scholarship? And if you just pop on that, it's open to everybody. Everybody can jump on and look at it. Some of the important highlights for the upcoming week. April 15th is a deadline for scholarships for seniors, for all those seniors who keep saying to your parent, I have it under control, and the parent saying, well, I'm not sure if you do. Parent, jump on the website and then ask your child, did you fill out the scholarships? Because they do. April 28th is the sitting for the Fasella Scholarship, which is a town scholarship in which the students who elect to participate in that scholarship have to come in early in the morning and write an essay. So if parents are listening, please talk to your student about where they're at on that time frame with all the things that are coming up. I'm sure they already have their prom dress, and I'm sure you know it, and their tux is ready, but the scholarship thing's kind of important. We want to make sure every child has the opportunity to apply for those, and kids sometimes forget. And one more quick check, but I believe that is it for me. Thank you.
I just want to note, on the Drama Society, I believe this is the regionals, this was the next level.
Oh, did I
One
jump
we
over
covered
that?
was,
Oh, sorry. So did I cover the regional?
yes, but this was the one that happened last weekend.
Yes. So did I miss the names of?
Yeah.
So we have not talked about the Excellence in Acting by Daniel Tracy. Excellence in Acting received by Sarah Delahanty. Another Excellence in Acting received by Chris Rainey. Technical Excellence in Sound Design, Will Gillis. Technical Excellence in Stage Management, Jolina Zakaria. How did I do with that?
Fantastic.
Say it again?
Fantastic.
Fantastic, I got them all
Yes.
right. I do practice, I don't know how I left their names out. I apologize. And that is it for me for tonight.
Okay, do we have any homeschool applications?
We do not.
Okay, any appointments, resignations, retirements, postings, or leaves of absence?
So this is the time of the year where we start to do some more postings. So we have our summer program at the Arthur T. Cummings. We're looking for program curriculum coordinators for ELA and math. We have teaching positions and ESP positions. That program, more to come to the parents on what it is, but that's July 5th through August 11th. And so those are the positions we're looking for that program. We are looking for a long-term substitute in special education for our preschool, that is for this year. And then we also have our Summer Learning Academy, which is our special education programming for the summer, the extension of the school year for those students who have IEPs that dictate that. And we're looking for teachers, academic tutors, instructional aides, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, part-time adjustment counselor, and a nurse. Again, that's a 5-week and a separate 6-week program, and there's also opportunity for people to do direct tutoring for students that come in just for an hour for ELA and math. And then with teacher retirements and teachers moving out of state, we are posting for a middle school science teacher for the 22-23 school year, an ELA teacher at the middle school also for next year, and middle school phys ed health and wellness teacher with an emphasis on wellness. We would like to have somebody who carries the wellness certification in that position, which allows them to do both health and wellness and phys ed. And those 3 positions are open for next school year. So trying to get ahead of the game and get those up and posted. And we have no leaves of absence.
Okay. Do we have any new business? And no unfinished business? Public relations, Mr. Martucci?
All set, thank you.
Petrie?
Kindergarten registration opens tomorrow before
Ooh, how'd I miss
for
that?
families.
No, thank you. No. Mr. Lettieri?
The town council did offer and was accepted the position of town manager to Anthony Marino, who is the current town manager at Ipswich. We are working on a contract now, hope to have a special meeting this Wednesday night where we will confirm that. And hopefully Tony will be here officially the 3rd week in May.
Congratulations.
Yep,
Thank you.
that's fantastic. All right, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martucci, second by Ms. Berry. May I have a roll?
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Lettieri?
Yes.
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Ms. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. We are adjourned.